What's up, guys? Big Papa Drock back with another Raid Shadow Legends video. And this is going to be a special one, guys, because we're going to take a moment to look back at 2023. Plarium has reached out to all the content creators and said, hey, give us a summation of what you think about 2023 looked like for you personally and for Raid. So I said, you know what? Why not? Let's take a look back at 2023 and let's examine where Plarium did well and where Plarium dropped the ball, because I believe in being, forthright and straightforward. And if we don't acknowledge our losses, we can't properly set ourselves up for success. But before we get into Plarium, obviously, I hope you're all doing well and having a wonderful day. But looking back at 2023, let's start with me. This has been an incredible year for me as a content creator in the Raid ecosystem. I mean, the response to videos I've put out and to the live streams that I've done has been nothing short of phenomenal. And so I just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge all of you, because frankly, your support has propelled this channel to new heights, has emboldened me to do more content, to do more Raid specific streams. And so I just wanted to take a moment and say, hey man, thank you. Thank you guys. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for rocking out. Thank you for laughing at me. Thank you for encouraging my toxicity in live arena, which I think is hilarious. And overall, just thank you so much for making my journey as a content creator successful and something new and fun and different every single day. So I really appreciate it. Like I said, 2023, an incredible year for me. And that really all comes down to you guys. So just wanted to acknowledge that before we get into what I think about this year as a whole for Raid. But let's talk about that. So this was a big year coming into 2023 for Raid. They announced it as the year of PvP. And we're going to break down what I consider to be their wins and then their losses. So we'll start with the wins. Overall, big win, live arena. Hey, you know what? Are there problems with it? Yes. Are there things that they could do to make it better? Absolutely. But without a doubt, this has been a win for Plarium and for Raid. It has given us a new way to do PvP. It has allowed me and allowed other content creators to, I think, grow their channels, which from a CC perspective, that's always incredible. It keeps people interested in the game. And again, it's given us new opportunities to do something different. So overall, I would call this a big W for Plarium. Like I said, they definitely have things they need to improve. I'll get into that in the kind of L section, but on the whole, live arena, a big W. Thank you, Raid, for putting it out. Let's talk about other W's. Well, there's one that just happened, and I think we got to call Curse City a win. There is a lot of content in here. There's a lot of new stuff to do. Yes, it's recycling bosses you've already faced, but at least it's doing it in a novel way. And again, I will never say no to anything like this that gives us more opportunities to use our champions. I think this is a really big win. This is one of the better updates that Raid and Plarium have done in a long time. It was desperately needed from a content perspective for sure. Obviously I'm a PvP guy, so the PvE stuff doesn't interest me as much. But I find this to be pretty engaging. So overall, I would call this a massive, massive win for Plarium and something that was desperately needed. Are there things they need to maybe tweak a little bit? Yeah, I think so. Specifically, a couple of these Soul Cross stages, which only a couple people in the world can actually beat. We've got 26 people who've beaten this one. I think something like 15 maybe at most. 7 who've beaten this one. So I think they got to tweak the difficulty a little bit on some of these hard stages. But other than that, I would call this a really, really good thing for Raid and something I'm very happy that they have done from a content perspective. So this is a win as well. This is a big win. Speaking of content, I think something else that we got to mention is Call of the Arbiter, right? The fact that Plarium spent money and time to develop essentially a mini TV series and flesh out some of the champions' backstories. I don't even know if you can find it in here. Here it is. The fact that they made all of this, I mean, that's awesome. Like, that's the kind of stuff that you want to see when it comes to world building in Raid Shadow Legends, right? So I think that this was such an awesome thing that they did. I'm really happy they did it. And hey, Plarium, listen, I was a voice actor for a long time and a TV actor. Let me audition for this stuff. You know what I mean? Let me audition for Call of Arbiter Season 2, please. You can make me whatever character you want. Maybe just don't make me Harrier, you know what I mean? Or I don't know, some other terrible champion don't make me Helicath. How about that? We all know how I feel about Helicath. But as a whole, this was super cool. A really big win for Plarium. And again, something that you want to see all the time is new opportunities to engage with Raid beyond just the game itself. So I love that they did this. I love that they took a chance, and I hope they come back with a second season. I don't know if they've actually said they're going to, but I really hope that they do. Let's talk about, I would call another like small win would be something like these summon pool events. They vary so drastically in terms of quality of champions offered and the odds to get them, but as a whole, I'm happy that they've done this. You know what I mean? It gives you an opportunity to get at one of the champions you're really looking for, or at least a better chance. And speaking of better chances, we finally, although it's not active right now, but we finally have a better multiplier than 10x with the progressive chance events. Now, I will say they need to take that further. They need to make it 15 and 25x all the time and not make it a progressive chance. You know what I mean? But at least we're moving in the right direction. I really hope that in 2024, Plarium says, you know what? We're not just going to do progressive chance. We're going to do a flat 25x. Again, there are so many champions in this game, so it's not like you're increasing the odds to astronomical amounts that everybody gets the champion they want. So that's what I would want to see from that going forward. But baby steps, right? We're moving in the right direction, and that's always a good thing, no matter what, no matter where we're coming from. I think also other wins, I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I really found to be massively impactful. I mean, obviously you had some basic quality of life improvements. I can't remember if they did the tavern this year at the end of last year. But overall, like just some basic quality of life improvements, increasing artifact space, good. Increasing accessory space, good. All of that is good. New gear sets as well that are interesting. But I would call that, like, to me, those are the major wins of 2023 for Plarium. And again, I think Live Arena for me as a PvP player is the best of the bunch. Also, you can make an argument that, like, as part of Live Arena, getting these area bonuses, like, that's always good too. So that's something that I think has really helped as well. But let's get into, maybe I wouldn't call this a loss, but I certainly wouldn't call it a win, at least not when it launched. And that is the advent or the introduction of mythical champions. So look, I think we all can admit, and Plarium has as well, that this was a massive, massive failure when they launched. The price of shards was a huge turnoff. I'm glad that they changed it and that they managed to pivot, but it was extremely disappointing the way that these new champions were introduced, because it's an interesting, cool new feature that should have been a really exciting thing for the community, but it ended up becoming a negative right off the bat. So that's why I would call it kind of a middle ground. Like, now that they're in the game, I was definitely very opposed to them initially. I do think they offer some really interesting new opportunities for PvP, and I've seen them get used a lot more often. However, what I will say is I do have one major concern with mythicals, and that is kind of the question that was around initially, which is balance. Here's the thing, like, a couple of these mythicals are already very bad. Like, they're not things you want to pull. They're not good champions. Siegfried, I think, is a great example of a mythical that on paper should be really good, but in practice is not that great. That's a bummer. Same with Fralny. Fralny is all right. Like, he's not really that good. So it's disappointing to have such a small pool of champions and already have several that you are sad to see if you actually pull. Same kind of thing with Mezimel. Mezimel is not bad, but she's not, like, great either. This is a tricky thing that I think Plarium has to walk the line on. How do you balance these appropriately without making them too powerful so that they supersede all the voids you've already introduced in the game or other champions, but you also make them worthy of the name mythical. Now, on that front, this is also something that I'm going to call kind of an L. Actually, I'm not even going to call it an L. I'm just going to tie it into something larger. There is no doubt that one of Plarium's biggest failures this year, or biggest losses, was their refusal to balance champions basically at all. It can't happen, right? You can't have a game like this with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of champions and refuse to update them, refuse to make improvements. It's just frankly not acceptable. And I think they know they have to do better. They've announced that they're going to do, improvements going forward. I really want them to commit, and I think the community wants them to commit to doing balance changes every single month of at least 5 to 10 champions. There is no excuse to do less. Some of these balance changes are obviously maybe they're total reworks. So someone like a Fortis, who is just completely awful. Some of them might be small updates. We're only changing a cooldown, but Plarium, you got to have a dedicated team, and maybe you work with content creators on this or talk to the community. I don't know, but there has to be an improvement in balancing champions going forward. And part of that, and the reason why I brought this up as it pertains to mythicals, is one of the things that really scares me with where Plarium is right now in terms of champions that they introduce is they are continuing to introduce champions that have essentially no counterplay. This is a great example. Hierophant Lazarius, you can't counter what he does. He has a passive that essentially locks out every single champion on your team if he kills somebody, and it doesn't matter how much resist they have. On paper, this sounds awesome. Like, oh man, if I pull a Hierophant Lazarius, I'm going to lock everybody out. But in practice, when you don't have counterplay, the entire PvP system completely falls apart. This is something I think they really need to think about going forward, because they have continued to introduce champions, starting with, I think, Harima, and even before that, where they have abilities that you can't resist and you can't block, and it doesn't matter what buffs or debuffs you have up, they just go straight through all of it. I don't think that's good for the game in the long term. I really think they need to reevaluate how they make these champions. And again, kind of piggybacking off of that, we can't be afraid to balance champions when they're broken. I know nobody likes nerfs. It makes everybody upset. They're very polarizing in the community. But one of the biggest, I think, things they need to improve, of course, and I've talked about this in other videos, is you have let the arena meta get stale, right? If we're looking back in 2023, it's been the same champions the entire year, Taurus and Marichka and UDK. And yes, they've tried to introduce counterplay to these champions, but they're just so broken powerful that it doesn't really matter. The smarter thing to do here is to balance the champions, to remove some of the kit that makes them so insanely broken. Now, not nerf them into the ground, but actually make changes that are smart. Like, for example, reducing Taurus's ability to reduce attack when he's, hit by an attack-based nuker. That's insanely strong. Or even potentially reducing his ability to withdraw, withstand damage, or just making him like every other HP nuker in the game, and that when he loses HP, he becomes less effective. Again, like this, I get that these are the Ukrainian folk heroes, but at the end of the day, you've got a game that you need to do right by, and I think that's been overall a really disappointing thing to see on the whole of it in 2023. And I think really my only other big gripe, I've made a video about things they can do to improve, so I'm not going to rehash everything, but I would say one of the biggest things that has been frustrating for, I know, content creators and for PvP focused people like myself is when you have a problem, you have something that you need to fix, you announce you're going to fix it to the community. That's good. Communication is great, and I appreciate that. But it can't take 5 or 6 months to do. And a great example of that, again, is polymorph. I talk about it all the time on streams. It has genuinely frustrated and ruined my enjoyment of a lot of areas of the game. And it's something that Plarium is aware of and knows they need to fix. And yet here we are 5 months later from that initial announcement that they're going to change it, and it still hasn't been touched. We got to do better. We got to do better in that. You know what I mean? Got to do better on that. If you know something's a problem, you know, there's a quote that I really love. And it relates, funny enough, to Florida Gator football, which is, I think it was Jeremy Foley who said this. A little history lesson for you guys. He said, something that must be done eventually must be done immediately, which is that if you know something's wrong, you can't put it off. You have to address it right now. And that is where I think Plarium has got to make a major improvement. So I would call that a disappointment for 2023. And then finally, coming back to Live Arena, again, this is a win. This is without a doubt a win, and it's been a really, really positive thing. But we need to take it further. And I really hope that they have this on the content pipeline for 2024, which is, look, this has so much potential to make Raid 10 times more exciting and interesting by allowing people to host tournaments, by allowing clans to host inter-clan tournaments or intra-clan within their own clan with their own members, or scheduling a friendly battle with someone where, you know, you have an opportunity to have bragging rights with a friend or test out new defenses or offenses. This mode to me has the most potential of anything in Raid. And if I were Plarium, I would work really hard in 2024 to improve this mode and to start offering some of those things I just spoke about. That's why it's not a loss, right? It's a win. Like, this is new content that is cool, that is interesting, that can be very fun. But if they really pour resources into this, I think this could be something that everyone in Raid benefits from. Both the Krakens and the whales like me, to the free-to-player, to the mid-tier, to everybody in Raid would end up enjoying something like this with some of those features I just spoke about. And again, I think that there's a wonderful opportunity to have content creator battles and stuff like that, which is just fun. Just a fun thing to do. And then finally, piggybacking off of this, we got to improve the rewards. Like, I'm sorry, guys. These are not good. Come on. We could do better than this, Plarium. Limiting people to four mythical shards per month or whatever. Like, come on, guys. You got Clan Boss spitting out shards every single day, and you have to get 35 Live Arena wins just to get a completely useless piece of gear. And then what everybody wants, a shard. They improved this, but they didn't go far enough. So come on, let's make an improvement. Let's actually make this either 1, uncapped, or 2, much higher, like 10 to 15 shards. And ideally, I mean, it should just give you 2 shards per 35 wins. That's a lot to ask of people that aren't Krakens. So anyway, that's my look back. That's what I think. I would call 2023, on the whole, if I'm going to assess it honestly for Plarium, I would call it a mixed bag, right? You had some really big wins in Live Arena and in Curse City, which are super cool. And then you had some really frustrating L's in champion rebalancing and polymorph and, you know, the things I just covered in the introduction of Mythicals. So we're moving in an interesting direction. I really hope that Plarium takes all the feedback from these videos and starts to chart a course for 2024 that makes Raid, makes Raid 10 times better than it already is. Like I said, they've made some really good stuff here, but just take the feedback, listen to the community, listen to the content creators, implement some of this stuff, and let's keep this thing rolling, baby. Like, let's get Raid big, you know? Let's get more people interested in it by making it better. So anyway, those are just my thoughts. Crazy year. Again, just want to close by saying thank you to all of you. I hope that you have truly enjoyed or had a good year for yourself and for your families. And again, I'm just so grateful and thankful to all of you for the support you've done for me in making this year a really, really special one for me personally. So thank you guys so much. Have a wonderful day. Let me know what you think about what I said. Let me know what your wins are for 2023 for Plarium. Let me know what your L's are. Let me know if you agree with me or if you don't. So always welcome that kind of feedback. But have a wonderful day. I'll catch y'all soon. Big Papa Drock out.